Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Rashmi Kurup, I'm editor MBTV. I have with me our CEO, Sudhir Pai. He will be joining us on the special banking edition. And our panelists today are Sanjay Joshi, Additional Senior General Manager, HDFC, Sandeep Bhatia, he's VP and Sales Head, Alternate Channel, IIFL Home Finance, and Srikanth, he's the CGM Real Estate and Housing, National Real Estate Head of the SBI. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And we're discussing today, how can you stimulate housing demand through financial interventions? Sudhir, you want to set the tone?
Sure. So as we begin, a warm welcome to all our participants, as well as to the panelists that we have on the show. Looking forward to a very exciting discussion over the next hour and 15 minutes or so. And I think it will promise to be very interesting as well as exciting. Before I begin proceedings, I thought it's useful to start with a bit of context. If you look at the primary real estate, between the years 2010 to 2014, I think the industry had a fantastic. We have seen prices remaining flattish and the number of transactions even coming down from the peak that was achieved in 2012. Now, a host of environmental as well as regulatory actions, right from demonetization, RERA, GST, the IBC pieces which came together, or even the NBFC crisis, have all contributed to sort of causing the short-term dampener effect on the primary real estate market. And just when it was appearing that the industry is set to develop some green shoots and take off, we have now had the COVID pandemic that has sort of struck us. Recently, we did a consumer survey, and what the survey told us is 70% of the buyers intend to stay in the market and continue to look for homes, but about a third of the buyers were considering dropping. A large part of the buyers also told us that they're looking at buying homes which are 10 or 15% cheaper. And a lot of them were also considering deferring their purchases by 3 to 6 months. So that is the kind of environment that I think is possibly facing us at this point of time. Of course, this survey was at a point of time. And based on the actions that I think industry and various stakeholders in the industry take, some of which we'll discuss in the show today, a lot could change in the course of this year. So with that, let me begin with the first question, and I'll direct it at you, Sanjay, and we can take it from there on. How are you reading the demand in the industry in the short term and in the medium term? By short term, I mean, let's say the first 6 months of this year, H1, and the near term, which is 18 months after that. How are you seeing demand patterns, and how do you think it will play out for the industry?
Now, I would look at short term, definitely. If you look at what has happened due to COVID, it is not only India, I think entire global economy has been impacted, right? And people are worried about what is going to happen in terms of their employment, what is going to happen in terms of health, general economy of the country. Now, when you intend to buy, now if you look at the demand side, I don't think the people who need house will stop thinking about buying a house, because it is a need. I think for India, it is very much, very sentimental and a lot of pride that you need to own a house. Now, what has happened in last about 2 months' time, definitely things have completely changed in terms of the outlook. Outlook only, not in terms of property, but outlook in terms of what is going to happen in next 3 to 6 months' time. And since it is an investment which requires large capital also from the consumer side, also they have to manage cash flows. So temporarily, since people are uncertain and you need a certainty in terms of your cash flows, future cash flows, because it's a long-term acquisition of property and you have to continue paying the EMIs. You don't have an option not to pay. So people actually are thinking then what to do it. I think what has happened from March onwards, probably 15th or 18th March onwards, things have definitely slowed down. And April was certainly a very bad month for the industry as such in terms of the business. But I think since May onwards, I think things are opening up since the lockdown has lifted. We are saying the inquiries are coming back. It will take some time, definitely maybe about 2, 3, 4 months time when things get settled and things are a little clear in terms of how are going to be the income for the people, how are going to they sustain the cash flows. And I'm sure they will come back. So it is only the question of deferment. They would have deferred their decision, but I don't think they would have cancelled their decision to buy the property at this moment. If you look at the long-term story, we don't see any issue in terms of housing. Today, if you look at our population in terms of demography, about 2/3 of the population is less than 35 years. Our experience within HDFC is that average age of a customer who actually are buying today in the range of 38, 39 years. So plus you look at in terms of affordability, definitely people would expect the prices to come down. Anybody would like the property to be cheaper. But if you look at the last 15, 20 years, I think probably the prices and the interest rate are virtually at a very low stage. Last 5 years, as you said, 14 onward, the prices have not gone up. And if you look at interest part, the rate of interest, if you discount that part, probably you're getting property cheaper about 25, 30%. In terms of interest rates, I think it's last 15 years, lowest rate, it was 2003, 4, I think it was about 7.25, virtually at the lowest interest. I feel it is only the question of time when the people are a little confident that things are better. The job opportunities, which have a little slowed down temporarily, which comes up, I think people will buy, will come back and start thinking on the properties. So long term, I don't see any issue. Temporarily, there may be deferment of the decision to buy property, but I don't think people will cancel the property unless you don't have a cash flow to sustain that.
Mr. Srikanth, I'm going to jump in here and ask you, when we talk about demand, we say that the number of people who are searching on our site, who keep returning and so on. When a banker says that there is demand, how do you assess demand from a lender perspective?
That's a very pertinent question. Unless the inquiry or the leads are converted, we don't consider it a demand. But definitely we go by the leads and the inquiry by the customer and then the interest. If you see the data of last few months, especially this month, if the month of May, the demand has increased. So that means that the sourcing at the ground level, the feet on the street, the marketing team, they are getting more inquiries and they are getting more files, completed files also.
Would there be a split between what comes online and what comes from the ground, the demand?
Digital, we are still digital very less because as you know, home loan is a dream of each individual. It's they want to discuss the threadbare with the nitty-gritty and many permutation and combination. So still it is a family decision. So normally they want somebody should visit their place. Even if the digital leads are coming online, the people who are going to follow up those leads, then only it gets converted. But right now it is around 85% to 15% to digital.
Right. Sandeep, I'm with your kind of demand. What have you noticed during the lockdown period? Has the demand increased? Has it gone down? Have you seen it come up in pockets? What is the general sense in terms of?
Jayashree, if I have to split in two, as Mr. Joshi also told, that demand is always there. Demand has not died. It is just, it may be deferred and it's postponed maybe for 4 months, 6 months, because people are uncertain about the outlook, the economy, and maybe the word of mouth around us. People are saying, okay, don't go in heavy investments, don't buy a car, don't buy a house. So maybe it's time, like people are more cautious. They believe that cautious is the word as of late. But yes, demand is definitely there. Now, as Mr. You also mentioned that whether it is we can assess through digitally or through ground reports. If we look at the government data also, like we as in IIFL, we are much into the government business, wherein we are very keen in doing projects which are built by the government authorities. So there, if we find out that before building any project, government does a survey of that what is going to be the demand. And if I have to just give out some numbers, every survey, which even a small town, a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 city kind of town, there are lakhs of aspirants, there are lakhs of beneficiaries who want to avail a government property. So that means there is a definite demand in it. But even we as an economy, from the government side, from the private builder side also, we are not able to fulfill the need which is exactly there. So as far as the demand is concerned, I'm sure the demand is there. It's just that people are waiting for some time, and this will never die. As far as 135 crores population, this will not die. And also one aspect that pre-COVID instance, we had this kind of a data wherein by 2030, Indian population will be divided into 50-50, 50% rural and 50% urban. So as of date, which is about 30-70 or something. So yes, definitely the demand is going to be equal in both the segments, as well as in rural, as well as in urban also, because a lot of population moved from tier 2 to tier 1 cities, from tier 3 to tier 2 cities. So urban demand is definitely going to remain there for quite some time. This is what my take.
Right.
Sandeep, it's interesting that you say that, which is that there is so much demand for government homes,
Yeah,
or homes which are constructed by some of these government agencies.
right.
We've noticed it in several of our surveys as well, which is there is a lot of latent demand of people
Right.
who are sort of waiting for a kind of property to come up
Right.
before they buy, and the latent demand seems to be an order of magnitude higher
Right.
than the actual number of people who are transacting. But
Right.
given the situation that the industry is facing right now due to COVID and some of the short-term uncertainty which is there,
Right.
my question to you, Srikanth, is this: what could be possible triggers that, as stakeholders in the industry and as lenders, one could bring to the table to kickstart or jumpstart transactions in this environment? What could some of those triggers be?
I have to respond.
Yes, Srikanth, to you.
Yeah. So I think already the government and RBI have taken many measures to kickstart or jumpstart the demand and revive the economy. Because as you know, housing is still being the key to revival of the economy. Everything revolves around housing. The construction will start, the steel cement industry will grow, the labor will be employed, and so on and so forth. And RBI has reduced the rate, also the repo rate. I think that is also some sort of allurement to the buyers who are waiting in the wings or postponing the decision, as was said in the beginning, that they are deferring the decision. I think this is a good allurement for them, and even with their reduced income, I think with the rate of interest coming down, their EMI which they thought of earlier, I think that same EMI they can bear as of now also. So this rate of interest cut is one. Second is that all the banks and other institutions, we are also going and trying to convince the prospective buyers about purchasing a house. Then I think this COVID, this also has created a lot of demand, because work from home, that concept is there, and people who have booked a smaller house, now they may like to revise like to take a bigger house, because they want some space in the home itself, so that they can both of them are working, they can work from home also. So this COVID has also some sort of revision will take place with some of the existing buyers who have already booked, or they want to go for a bigger house. Even people who were staying in the rental accommodation or small accommodation, they would also like to take a house, because home is everywhere. You work from home, stay at home, so home is flowing like anything. So it is in the everyone mind to go for a home for himself or his family, so that they can stay positively with good hygiene, good ventilation, good air and clean air, and also they can work from home in case of necessity.
So by dropping the interest rates, are we seeing a bump up in demand? Is that one of the big triggers? You did talk about how the need has grown, but are people holding back because of the liquidity fear?
Rate of interest is just one of the factor. It is not the only factor which creates the demand, but it is one of the factor, because always the cheapest things doesn't sell always, but definitely because as I said, in the if there is a wage cut or if any salary revision also takes place with the reduced rate, they can afford the same EMI as they could have done in pre-COVID stage.
Right. And they can get a bigger house for that also. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Sanjay, which is the segment of the market that you really, that is the best retail segment to lend to?
For us,
Yes.
I think all the segments I think are important to us. I don't think I can say specifically that a particular segment is more important, not the other one.
Yeah.
If you look at our portfolio today, 36% of our loans are in affordable segment. Okay, but there is a separate demand. Okay, so you cannot have a specific segment which is more important for us and you can ignore somebody else. So anybody who is needing a home, I think is an important segment for us. So whether it's a middle income, but if you look at the major demand today are in the segment which is in the non-metros in the ranging about 35 to 40, 50 lakhs. And in the metros, maybe 50 to 75 is the ideal one. In Bombay, maybe 1 to 2 crores. Okay, the upper segment is less in demand in terms of simple because definitely they are high-end properties. But in totality, anybody who is needing, I think, is an important segment for us. Look at, we are not specifying, but we have a specific focus on affordable segment. We have a segment for informal sector. There is a separate division where we're working on the reach, which is called a reach product, which is purely on the informal segment. But as a whole, if you look at anyone who is interested in a property today becomes an integral part of the Aura segment.
Do you think that the CLSS extension for another year will help?
Definitely. I think the CLSS, if you look at, I think one of the best scheme which has performed over a period of last 3 to 4 years. If you compare to any other scheme, I don't remember any scheme which has done so well, where the beneficiaries are getting directly money from the government. And if you look at the numbers, amount of numbers which we have done, on a cumulative basis, I'm talking about 1 million of the home buyers have got the subsidy amount. MIG, though introduced later, but as an important segment of the society. And I think extension of will definitely help reviving the demand, which also as an important section, as you said, for the housing market.
Sandeep, help me understand what are the segments that you focus on, and do you see any one segment coming to the forefront after the COVID?
Right. So, Jayashree, if I have to give perspective from the IIFL point of view, we in past also focused on affordable, and not the 36%, but our piece is much wider in terms of affordable. We are more than 60% in this segment. And between that affordable segment, we are more into the unorganized profiles, where people have income but do not have the income proofs. So typically vendors, vegetable vendors, panwalas, right? The Ola Uber drivers, the auto rickshaw. So if you look at the numbers again, 97% of population in India is who doesn't have the ITR, who doesn't have the formal income proofs. So they may not avail loan from the banks, or maybe going into a private bank or a nationalized bank straight away because they don't have the proof. So we focus on that segment, and we have quite a success in last I would say 2 years of this product. We have a specific product called Savraj, which is only meant for those customers who have income and do not have the income proof and they want to buy a home. And this again ranges between 5 lakhs to 20 lakhs is a loan ticket size, and the property is about 25 lakhs to 30 lakhs. And majority is in the tier 2 towns. So we have done close to 30,000 customers we have acquired in last 2 years. And being a first house for them, they are very close to their property. So the portfolio also looks very, very good. And icing on the cake is, as Mr. Joshi mentioned, the CLSS. Because if you are in that bracket getting a loan of 20 lakhs, and in just 6 months time you get a subsidy of 2.5 odd lakhs, so your loan straight away comes down to 17 and a half lakhs. So it's a big thing for everyone, for me, for everyone, because reducing that much amount of loan in 6 months scenario, it's a huge push for each and every customer. So these are the things, and these are the profiles which we look at and which we keep looking at in future also, because we see that these are quite effective in terms of sourcing such profiles.
Have you seen the COVID lockdown impacting profile? Because a lot of jobs have actually temporarily halted or
Yeah.
deferred. No?
So overall, if we see, yes, they will definitely be hit. Maybe for another 4 months, 5 months, maybe in next two quarters, we have to be more vigilant. But as I told you, majority of the population is in this unorganized sector. They will definitely come back. They will definitely re-establish their businesses in a new way, in a new avatar, and obviously the demand of labor, the demand of workers, blue collar jobs, it's not going to away. Factories will reopen, offices will reopen, housekeeping staff will rejoin the offices. So all these profiles will come back. Auto rickshaw drivers will again be there on roads, and people will travel through those transportation modes. And apart from the financial institutions, I would say the other bigger stimulus which the government has given, other than the PMAY, is the stamp duty subsidy also. The stamp duty lower, which up to 20 lakhs of property from 5% has reduced to 2% now. So this is again a very big stimulus for the for that affordable segment. And states like Karnataka, which have further increased this reduction to 35 lakh property from 5% to 3%. So I think the governments play again a very, very important role in getting all these people their dream homes, and obviously we are there to provide the home loans for these profiles.
That's interesting, actually. The role of the governments in pushing this entire demand portfolio.
Yeah.
So let's switch this conversation to price. It's a very, very price sensitive market. It is based on sentiment. You want to talk about how Magic Bricks has viewed price and take the conversation there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think home loans have played a very critical role in making sure that the entire market becomes a lot better by making it easier to purchase a home. And with home loan prices now moderating over the last several years and moderating pretty sharply over the last few months, homes are only going to get that much more affordable. Plus, I think like the panelists were mentioning, I think for existing home loan buyers, the moratorium in the last few months has also been helpful. Now, my question to the panel is this, and we can begin with Sanjay. How can lenders make cash flow, considering that most of the new buyers have cash flow issues or are likely to face cash flow issues in the short term? How can lenders make it affordable and easy in the current environment for new buyers to step in and still transact on homes?
So are you talking on existing? This moratorium is meant for existing one, not the new ones.
So the existing consumers, I think, have got a bit of relief.
Yes.
So I'm asking about new buyers.
New buyers, I think what probably in my view, see buyers today, if somebody has a cash flow problem, I don't think we'll go in for a property, as we discussed in the beginning, right? There may be some drop in salaries, okay, but people will come and they think of buying a property, will be very sure that at least they have a consistent cash flows. Now, what probably can be done and are being done is probably you can have a flexible payments plan, okay, the structured EMIs for them, where you can actually initially pay a little less in the beginning, just to maintain the cash flows, right? And pay a little higher EMIs at a later date. I think we have a product like Serve where you can pay installment which are a little lower in the beginning, since you, as you mentioned, that there may be cash flows, or mainly it is meant for younger people who are working and intending to buy homes and can't afford the entire cash flows. So we can offer higher loan amount, but we are lesser EMIs, okay? And the EMIs can subsequently be increased based on how their salaries are increased in the later part of the year. I think that is one of the ways we can do it. I would say, which we have been talking to the government also, and we've been talking to regulators, that probably there was a scheme, subvention scheme earlier, okay, which was stopped with the government, okay. government may have thought many times before stopping and may have found. I think that was a pretty good scheme where the cash flows of the consumer was not impacted in the beginning. I think that was scheme where people can think of buying, because today it is very difficult to sustain both your rental and the EMIs or the PMIs together. I think government should think of bringing out the subvention scheme back with a lot of riders. They can think of the concerns which they have. They can plug in those concerns. I think that will help both for the industry and both for the consumer point of view. I think that is what I think should be done, because if you are looking for a property and can defer your installments in the beginning, I think that will go a long way.
Got it. Can you elaborate a bit more, Sanjay, for the benefit of the participants? What is the nature of the subvention scheme? I think a lot of people have very different interpretations of the subvention schemes, given the very different ways in which it's run in the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, see, there might be.
Run in the past, and what's the subvention scheme?
I'll quickly tell you. Now, there's a subvention scheme a couple of times where basically interest is being borne by the developer for the initial period, right? Some developers are born taking 100% care, and some builder can think of taking partial subvention, okay, depending upon what is the cost they want to bear it. Subvention is nothing but the deferment of your interest payment, which obviously may have been built in partly in the cost, because obviously the builder has to done it. But the only benefit to the consumer itself is there is no worry of making payments to the developer, and your cash flow to that extent is saved. I think that is the only benefit of that, where it is a win-win situation for the developer, because developer are able to sell the property. For a consumer, at least he is able to manage cash flows and can acquire the property without making installments which are required to be paid in the normal circumstances. I think that is what the subvention in scheme in short. So it is not that there is some gimmick. It is simple that you're just deferring your payments.
Right. Sanjay, Shrikant, can I pass that question onwards to you? A bit of context before that. So I think Sanjay makes a very important point that at this point of time, if there was a subvention scheme which could bring the EMI down for the buyer, with the difference being paid by the builder, it would go a long way in making homes more affordable, given the cash flow crunch for buyers at this point of time in the short term. We are seeing a direct use case of that for a long while now, which is people buying their very first homes who are currently staying on rent. Right? The EMI for them ends up being a substantial premium to the rent they are paying. So in the short term, if you are able to bridge that gap, it could trigger a lot more purchases. I think that's what Sanjay is also probably referring to.
I meant one more thing. One is that sharing part of the installment. The other is you don't pay. The customer doesn't pay. The borrower doesn't pay in the beginning for maybe 15 to 18 months time.
Pay at all.
Both ways. So you can subvent part or you can subvent full. So today, I think what is required probably to subvent full probably will be in the favor of the buyer as of now, which was stopped by NHB 2 years back.
Understood. So either it is the buyer doesn't pay at all for a certain period of time, and the builder takes entire responsibility for paying the entire EMI, or it takes responsibility for paying part of the EMI, with the buyer having to pay a lot lesser in the beginning. Shrikant, what are your views on this?
We are totally against this subvention scheme, so to say, because this is a part of the gimmick, and it is a Ponzi scheme where I think many people have burnt their fingers in the past, because it is like taking from your right hand and giving back through the left hand. So instead of that, instead of subvention, if the builders, if they can afford that much amount for 1 year or 2 year interest or rental, whatever may be the form, if they can afford that much outgo from their pocket, if they can discount their prices, if they reduce their prices, I think that will kickstart the demand in the market. Because now buyers are also afraid of going into subvention scheme. Even financiers, the PSUs, we are also afraid of giving loans in those type of properties where there is a subvention schemes. So I think it is for nobody's case where nobody is going to give from his or her pocket. It is very clear. They will definitely inflate the price, make the flat much more costlier, and try to give you some discount. It's like that 100 rupees, which is the thing which is coming at 100 rupees, you inflate to 150 and then give a get back cashback of 40 rupees. Still you are the gainer. So I think we are not in favor of any such scheme. Instead of that, there is a considerable demand and considerable pressure on the builders to reduce the prices by at least 20%, so that the buyers, they can go for the houses.
There are still some subvention schemes that developers are offering. Is that illegal? Because
Yeah, it's illegal, na. Why you are offering? You definitely you are sharing from out your profit only. So instead of that, you reduce your profit margin and bring it to. It is like over invoicing. You are selling some thing at over invoicing the billing, and then you are giving the cashback.
so you don't think that subvention in any form should be coming back, or there should be some, because actually subvention did help some consumers. It was extremely popular in the market because people who don't are not able to bear the rent plus EMI, they were the ones who were picking up subvention. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a Ponzi scheme, right?
It's an illusion. It's an illusion only. I am paying something more. I am deferring my payment to a later period, and the first initial period somebody is taking care of mine. So it's just an illusion that people are there. Instead of that, if I'm getting the flat cheaper at the initial stage itself, if I get the discount, and then they can go, as Sanjay was also telling, we are also having many such products, step up, step down repayment schedules, flexi repayments. So there are many such loan products are available which can reduce your EMI in the initial years, and when your income level goes up, you can pay higher EMIs.
And are those schemes popular? The step-up schemes?
Not much popular, because nobody wants to postpone their liabilities. Everybody wants to bring down their liabilities as quickly as possible. So, but schemes are there.
Okay. And today, despite the fact that the loan rate, the interest rates have come down, we haven't seen a huge step up in demand. It is still a muted demand. So clearly, it's not only the interest rate that matters. There are a lot more. Do lenders have to do anything to bring that demand back? Shrikant?
Yeah, only thing that we can do apart from the interest rate, it is guided by RBI that we need to pass on to the borrower. Apart from that, we need to improve our processes, improve our delivery. It has to be much more smoother, much more faster. And slowly we are making it fully digital, end-to-end digitization. That is also that hour of the demand that also we need to bring into the, because unless we make it at the convenience of the customer, provided the product at his or her doorstep, I think the offtake will be less. And the entire home loan journey, we are trying to revise all the financial, we are having a review of the entire home loan journey, make it much more smoother and much more customer friendly.
And do you see more consumers now going into your online products? This I would actually, after you, I would put it to my other guests as well. Are you seeing the offtake of digital improving?
Yeah, digital offtake is definitely improving, and because we are also working on them, and end-to-end, as I said, end-to-end digitization, we are working on that. But still, they want at least one meeting with the specialized people to work out the nitty-gritties, because there are so many factors involved in deciding a house or deciding a flat if it is not the construction. So apart from that, one meeting or so, otherwise digital leads are increasing, and we are seeing a better share of digital leads in the overall.
Sanjay, when you see digital demand, is it solicited demand, or is it natural move towards going to the digital?
I think natural. Because what COVID has done, so digital is not something new to us. We were doing it, digital processing, even earlier times, but we were not focusing to that extent, and we were not branding. Simple, because people used to come. People were more comfortable in coming to office and dealing with this. But what has happened now, post-COVID, the things have completely changed. Okay, so as far as home loans are concerned, we are seeing a complete change, makeshift change in the way the people now are applying for home loans. I remember we used to do about 1,000 applications a month pre-COVID. In April, we started with about 200 applications a day. We went up to 400 applications a day, and we ended up close to about 15,000 applications which are applied through online. We are seeing this trend increasing now. And I think we will focus, because we think that going forward, I think digital will play a big role, at least in the products for the home loan processing. Not only home loan processing, which in terms of approval of loan or submission of documents, we also are doing disbursement online to the developers. Okay. Only what we are not able to do is today, only the first disbursement, new disbursement, because under the IT Act, we can't have the loan agreement executed digitally. So that is the only thing which is missing. Otherwise, digital loan approval, you can apply, and we are absolutely now complete with all the processes. We are doing disbursement to developers digitally. Absolutely, we are able to transfer funds directly based on the customer request. Now, what we intend to take it forward is in terms of digital, that what we can do with the developers in branding digitally, whether we can do joint online exhibitions, or we can do promotional programs together just to bring more awareness. We're also bringing new videos or new films to educate people that what are the benefits of home loans, or how they should go about all those things. I think digital will play a big role going forward.
Is it pre-approvals or approvals? Meaning the house has been shortlisted before they come to you, or they come to you for pre-approvals as well?
In about 90% cases, people generally come to us after selecting the property, because today approval is that much simpler, because today there are a lot more sites and people are generally aware what is their eligibility. It is only the approval part. Less than 10% or maybe 15% people who have not identified the property but would have shortlisted, they may have not paid the advance. So about 85% will be those people who actually have cleared everything and they are applying. Now, because of the COVID, it was mandatory, because they still went ahead and applying. 15% was pre-approval because they just wanted to make sure that the loans are approved and they go ahead, but they would have definitely shortlisted the properties.
Sandeep, do you see this in the informal sector as well? Is there a move towards digital?
Yes, there is. So if you look at these times, in fact, in the informal sector also, people have become tech savvy. They want to get digital, and through all the learnings, through all the media thing, they are now aware that yes, they have to. The times will be different. They will not be similar times wherein they will have to visit the offices and only do the documentation. So digital is going to be the way forward, wherein not only the approval part but the disbursement also has to start happen. So I think the CREDAI and it has already been requested to the government that the first disbursement should also be approved on a digital way, so that the customer can sign the e-agreement and the disbursement can happen at the first instant also, not the other ones. So yes, digital is definitely going to be the key for each and every profile, each and every customer, and for the builders also. I believe that they have also to think not only from the subvention scheme kind of point of view, but also from the other side, which they can give, like they can enhance the amenities, they can reduce the unit size to keep the budgets within the check in the affordable range. So even the branded builders has to come up with those products to trigger the demand that yes, like Lodhas or maybe Mahindra, Tata. So all these good branded builders, they have to come up with new schemes, maybe other than the subvention, to trigger the sale, which will be definitely giving more amenities and reducing the unit size to fit in the budgets.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it to the moratoriums that the government has offered. With the government moratoriums, are we in any danger of shifting our problem? There are a lot of people who have lost their jobs, who have gone on, they don't get their salaries for the next 2-3 months. We have given them a moratorium, 3 months, maybe 6 months. are we postponing a problem, or do you think that payments will happen regularly? Sandeep?
I believe that it will be a problem. Yes, it will be a problem. Yes, we have seen that people who have not understood the moratorium completely have even stopped giving the payments, because most of the clients, they have not understood what is the spirit of the moratorium. So spirit is that you still have to pay the interest, or the interest will be accumulated even for these three months. So people believe that, okay, I will miss 3 months and then my tenure would be extended by another 3 months. So that's not the case. So here education is also very, very important for each and every customer. The touch base is important in terms of calling them and telling them that what exactly moratorium is. And what we have seen within our in organization, when it was announced, so the first effect was in April. Maybe 50% of the people thought that yes, it's going to be a EMI holiday. But after we started the education series and calling them, so we got 75% payment within that month, because people understood. So the only those 20%, or today the figure is as low as 13%, who have took the moratorium, are those who have lost the business and or maybe lost the jobs. And those will continue for another quarter, or maybe 2 quarters, once they re-establish their businesses or re-establish their jobs. So that problem will continue. But I think a learned guy who understand that yes, it's the interest will still is liable, he will stop and he will continue to pay.
Right. Sanjay, I'm going to take the same question to you. You're one of the largest lenders in the PMAY scheme, right? When it comes to the moratorium, what percentage of people have opted for the moratorium, and do you think we're postponing a problem?
For PMAY, I don't have that PMAY number, but on overall basis, 21% of our the customer and the AUM have opted for it. Now, we also have spoken, it is not that they have sheerly opted because of the loss of business, or loss of business, or the loss of income. It is more of their cash flow. I think everybody was wanting to preserve cash. I think everybody was uncertain what will happen next 3 to 6 months time. And very few, I think we have not got that much message that people have lost the job. It is more from only the perspective of maintaining that cash flow. So they have opted for it. Now we have been educating people that they should pay it, and I'm sure the things will be better in the next phase. If you ask me, as you're saying, whether we see problem, I don't see a problem as of now. I think it is just a matter of time, and when things become better, I think most people will pay on time, and it is only the question. Time will tell what is the right situation as of now. But as of today, based on our feedback, based on other reports, internal reports which we have talked to the customer, we don't see any problem as of now.
Right. Shrikant, one last question before we go on to the questions that our consumers have been asking. Shrikant, do you see the consumer going more for completed projects rather than under construction projects? Is that distrust in the industry, between the consumer and the industry, coming down at all?
I think that was the trend in last H2 of last financial year itself, because people were more willing to pay a little more even for but they were preferring ready to move in properties, and that was clearly visible in the H2 of last financial year. And the end user investor and end user users, they were more purchasing the house. The investors are almost out of the market, especially from the big markets. Investors are slowly they've totally withdrawn, and end users are more. So that was a good sign for all the banks and financial institutions, because the more end users will come, definitely there will be better demand in the days to come.
And is this pushing developers also to probably ask you for some funds which can complete? You are also managing the stress funds, right? SBI Caps is managing the stress funds.
Correct. Last mile funding we are managing.
Right. So are you seeing a lot of developers saying, look, I need this much, I want to finish so that I can quickly sell off? Are you seeing a lot of interest among the
there is a surge from builder side also. The demand has really gone up like anything, because they want the project to be completed and what is to be in offer, and they want total inventory right from 1 BHK, 2 BHK, 3 BHK, all ready to move in properties, so that with a virtual tour or actual tour, the customer they can have a lot of choices to make their decisions in a better way.
And that last mile funding has become easier now, or there are still some roadblocks to that?
Actually, last mile funding, the basic concept was that the project has to be net positive in that, and there were certain other stipulations also, and not many builders are fitting into those criteria. So that is a hindrance. I think how to address that, that is a major challenge.
That's right. And in fact, the industry is also asking for a one-time rollover, right? And how that rollover can happen is something that seems to be.
I think some rollover, the RBI is already given the DCCU and all that has been already been enhanced. So now it is 2 years and some more assessment of limits. There is a much more freedom has been given to the banks. So a lot of things has been given to the banks. I think all put together, that will go a long way in improving the liquidity of the builders also.
That's right. Sanjay, I'm going to take this rollover question to you also, and then Sudhir will start with the questions, right? What do you think about the rollover? Has it happened? Will it happen? What are the kind of safeguards that we need to?
I don't know when will it happen, but if you look at from the developer side, I think everybody has been requesting. And what has happened, most of the projects at the fag end of the completion have come to halt. Okay, and there are delays in their repayments to the banks, and some of them have become NPA. Maybe because of the cash flows, maybe because of slow sales, and whatever other reasons of the approvals and other things. Now, what has happened today? Now, today you cannot fund a project which is already NPA. Any funding which is done over and above also has to be qualified under other NPA norms. So today, and that's why the bank are reluctant to do it. Any more funding to something, and today 90% of the project will fall in that category. So developers have been requesting that if this moratorium is allowed, and I saw a letter written to PM a couple of days back by the CREDA itself, I think it will help to the extent that probably some funds would be available to the bank. Every builder may not get it, but some good developers might get the money, and it will help, because eventually if the projects are not completed, it is going to be a problem for everyone, whether it's a developer or a consumer, because a lot of projects are booking. So I think it should be done, and I have no idea what is the RBI view as of now today, but we all hope if it is done, probably it will be the better in favor of industry.
Right. Sudhir, you want to kick off the questions? There are different categories of questions coming in.
Yeah, sure. I think we've had a few thousand consumers and more across the different platforms who have been watching the show. And we can see a stream of questions coming in. Some of them clearly seem to be very consumerish questions, and some of them are directly related to the discussion we had. So I'll pick some of them, and let me begin. First question is from Vijay Thakur. I think his question is around home loan rates. The question is, we are seeing home loan rates reducing and 7% rate of interest being declared. Why do we as consumers not get the same rates of interest? I think his question seems to be more or less around transmission rates. They are seeing certain interest rates being declared in media, whereas the rate of interest that consumers actually end up paying is a little more. And I think the second part of the question is, are home loan rates expected to fall further? So Sanjay, do you want to take that?
Whether home loan rates will fall further, I think probably we are at the rock bottom. Might fall a little bit, but not much expected, because it has an impact on the deposit rates and the other factors. But if you look at the other question which this gentleman has asked is about the rate. Obviously the new rates are about 7.25 or 7.35, and the old customer have an option to go back and change their rates. It is not that it is not possible for them to do it. Anyone who is a borrower can go back to the lending institution and go back and ask for their rate and can opt for change. Some rates are directly linked to the retail prime lending rate and the spread. They get the benefit, but in case their rates are a little higher than what is being offered to the normal new consumer, I think they have an option to go and opt for a change. by paying a nominal fees.
Understood.
We have one very interesting question here, Sudhir. Can we reduce, and Shrikant, maybe this is in reaction to your points, can we reduce the EMI to the current rent which the consumer is paying, which will help him deal with managing his cash flows currently? Meaning, we were talking about step-up plans. If a consumer is paying X, 100 rupee rent today, can the EMI also match that 100 rupees? And then we stepped up to whatever it has to be. Is this a possibility? I thought that was an interesting question. Maybe you would like to answer. Shrikant?
Yeah, for new buyers it is possible. For old buyers also we give we allow conversions taking into his existing cash flow and the future cash flow into account. But it depends upon case to case basis. In general, there cannot be any generic answer to this. But if he fits in into all the conditions, then definitely yes.
No, Sudhir, carry on.
We have a question from Swaroop here. The question says, I think again it's related to subvention, but maybe I'll point it to Sandeep. What is the challenge with subvention if the builders have to pay upfront? Addressing the pitfalls and introducing a new subvention with riders, like one of the panelists suggested. Sandeep, do you want to take that? I mean, does a subvention scheme need to be something which is anti-consumer or something which a consumer ends up funding himself? Or is it possible to come up with a variant of that? I think that's where the question is aimed at, which helps the consumer in the short term without shortchanging.
Right. So, so as of date, the subventions are not allowed; they are banned. But if we look at the spirit of the subvention was that it benefits both the sides. From the consumer side, also he gets time, and the most important thing is that he has to start repaying when the property is fully built up, and he can see the structure, and he can move in, and then start start paying. And from the builder side, yes, again, it helps that he gets the lump sum amount upfront, and it helps in building him the project on a faster pace. But it has a pitfall in terms of some smaller builders who have taken it. Maybe they have parked the funds to some other project, and then the issue started. So if you ask me from the sales point of view, yes, it has helped in past also, and I'm sure in these times these subvention schemes will help. But we need to check as a financer. We have to be very, very careful about the builders. We have to be very, very careful about the reputation of the builder. So that is going to be the key factor that where we are doing the subvention schemes as a consumer also. That my money, which is being given by a lender to builder directly on my behalf, whether it will be utilized in making my property or not. So that is going to be the key thing. I think picking up the builder maybe in a very small portion and to start this subvention, yes, it will help, and it will trigger the sales.
There is a question that Yezdi Beranji has asked us on our Facebook channel, and he said that loans are not going to be easy anymore as the RBI has enforced the new NPA rule, which says that if a bank or branch has more NPA than the bank manager, will he may go in for a CBI inquiry and so on. Basically, the question here, Shrikant, is will the bank managers be sticking out their necks to give loans, considering that this industry does have a risk weightage, a high risk weightage?
No, I think the scenario is totally different because loans are being processed at the processing center. Even in case of us, and I think in case of SDFC and the other financier also, it is not being processed at the branch. So there is no question of involving the branch manager in that.
Okay. So you don't think that there is a fear among the on the ground?
In retail loans, there is no fear as such. Only in commercial loans, there is some fear is there.
Yeah, and do you? But that is normally more or less being given through that last mile funding, right?
No, commercial credit. I mean, other than retail, the commercial credit there may be a slight fear, but not in retail credit. In the individual personal credit, like personal loan or home loans or car loans or any other such loans, there is no fear as such.
Sanjay, one question that has repeatedly come to us, not only during this COVID times, but almost across the period that we have been running MBTV, is that when a consumer took a loan and took a, they expected the banks have done their due diligence. But despite that, there have been a lot of problems on the ground. Now, after the corrections, after the various policy measures have been taken place, is it safe to say that if a bank gives you a retail loan for a project, is it safe? Is the consumer safe? Today, RERA is also in place. So, is the bank doing enough due diligence before giving that loan? And we have a couple of questions here.
So, okay, now when you talk about due diligence at HDFC end or our end, what we are verifying today is whether the project has all the clear title, the project has all the required approvals, okay, and to some extent credibility of the developer also based on the past history, right? The project is a long-term project. It will happen because I'm approving a project when in the beginning of the stage. I'm not approving the project at a later stage. I'm not monitoring the cash flows because when we are approving a retail loans, we are only verifying or validating the ownership documents, all the required approval and the credibility to the extent we can verify and we can validate. If the project is stuck, normally project is stuck for the cash flow subsequently, right? It can happen. And I think that's something we do not have a direct control on the project or the cash flow side. Right. So if you say whether after the due diligence can project be stuck, it can be stuck, not because of the title, not because of the title. So the issues which have come today and on any of the issues which you're saying are more from the cash flow perspective, which were dependent on the sales of the project or the future debt which he was supposed to arrange, which he could not arrange. So there are multiple factors project would get, and not for the project approval which has been done in the beginning by the institution.
Right. Do you have anything to add to this right now? I think more or less we are done with the questions.
There's one question I've received, seems interesting. It's a little different. It's come from Alok, seems to be an NRI. Shrikant, do you want to take this question? It says,
yeah,
we have access to loans which run for 30 years and with lower down payment requirements in the US as compared to what's available in India. And that might sort of deter some people from buying homes. Is there more flexibility that Indian lenders can show towards Indian buyers? So I think the question more or less, I think the markets are very different. Those are developed markets for the West versus Indian context. I think the question is around the down payment requirements. In India, typically lenders ask for about 20% of the property value or so as down payment. And also the loan tenure, the maximum tenures in India seem to be 15, 20 years. It's a lot higher earlier. So do you want to just respond to the question?
Here also, I think all the lenders, they give loan up to 30 years. So the tenure, I think it is applicable across all the financial, whether all the banks or financial institutions, up to 30 years it is available. But it depends upon the borrower's age also, up to the maximum age of 70 or 30 years, whichever is earlier, the loans are given. And in the interest rate, I think it is in the last 15 years, it is the rock bottom. Now the rates are as comparable as 2004-05. So the rates are also, and if you get converted the US interest rates to the Indian rupee rate, I think we are much cheaper than the US market.
Veer, can I add here?
Yes.
Yes. I mean,
I think the other point on the the equity which said of the customer, I think it's a regulatory requirement where the equity has to vary from minimum 10% to 25% depending upon which loan category you fall. And it is definitely different than what in US. And I think one of the reason and one of the resilience of the Indian market has been that there is a skin of the customer in the property. So I think it is fairly good that there is a stake of the customer in the property, unlike US where you can get 100% the loan. And that was one of the reasons for subprime in US.
You're right.
So I think fairly good that I think regulators have put that in place. And as a lending institution, you cannot compromise on that. So you have no option to increase even 1% higher than that. So you have to strictly follow that.
Are you seeing more demands from NRIs at this point of time? Is that segment become a lot more active in the last few months?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it is coming. I think one of the reasons probably is the rupee depreciation. and where you get much better rupee value now. And NRIs has always been there. It is not new now. That's something in. But whenever the rupee has devalued, we are seeing more interest from the consumer, from the people who are staying abroad want to come back. And particularly in this situation where pre-COVID has happened, and most people wants to have their own houses, I think people are coming back to us. Yeah.
Wonderful. Jayashree?
Yeah. Actually, I think what we have talked about is bringing back demand. A lot depends on what the consumer is. There's no lack of demand. Can the deals be made sweeter? Can the consumer? Can you keep reaching out to consumers? What Shrikant said, there's a lot, what Sanjay said, there's a lot of activity, marketing activity from the banks happening on the ground, and that's translating into a lot of demand at the banking counters as well. From here, what is it that we can do? Can we take it forward? Can this industry be streamlined so that the supply also matches the increasing demand? And here, the bankers have a twin role of lending to the project as well as making sure that the consumer also has enough money in hand. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the beginning of our banking segment. These are the discussions that we think will make a lot of sense into the future. Sudhir, closing remarks?
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. I think it's been a wonderful conversation. We'll put up the recorded version of this on our pages as well, so that people who could not participate in the event should be able to see it thereafter. Thank you so much, Sanjay,
Thank you,
Sandeep,
Sudhir.
Shrikant. Wonderful
you.
discussion.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jayashree.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.